Kia ora e te iwi, how are we all? I hope you're all well. I'm great. I've just been back into some hiking, which has been incredible. Nala, the dog, her foot's all healed up, so I'm able to get back out into the wilderness, which has been great. Something I was up to at the end of last week, and other than that, I'm just back into working on the property, which is great. Something I wanted to talk about today is self-discipline, and the fact that self-discipline is self-love. They are one and the same, even if self-discipline at times can be extremely hard and challenging. It is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves. And we live in a day and age where self-love and self-care have been kind of made to seem like you should always be doing the easy thing, that you should be never stressing yourself out, and that, to spend a whole week doing absolutely nothing is self-care. And in some way that is true, of the fact that you need to rest just as hard as you need to play. But so much of what people deem as doing nothing these days is actually just staring at a screen or doing things that are actually potentially detrimental to your health. And that if you spent that week actually out doing something that you want to do, or is that going to better yourself, make you feel better, or actually have a positive reaction on your body and brain and mind, is that would be far better for you to do. And that kind of leads me also to the idea to talk about the fact that the mind is completely as trainable just as the body is. The mind is a muscle, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And that your mental faculties and your cognitive functions, everything, it can all be trained, and that is super important to do so. And it requires self-discipline to do so. It's not an easy thing. But life's not easy. We live in a material world, and if we let it all get out of control, and if we aren't actually putting discipline into our life in certain areas, then it's super detrimental to our own health, mental, physical, and spiritual. And yeah, if you are running around in your life with no discipline at all, far out, man, you must be living a heckin' chaotic life, and I'm sure you have many areas that are causing a lot of chaos and drama and problems in your life. And a lot of the time, a little bit of self-discipline can go a long way. And yeah, as I was saying, the mind is completely trainable. As I was saying in another video with the cold therapy, that that's one example of the fact that when you break through these walls of going into the cold water and whatnot, that it trains your mind, and actually trains the part of your mind to do with impulse control and motor functions and a bunch of different other things. And yeah, that's just one simple example on how the mind is completely trainable. And if you have any areas that you want to improve on in life, be it your cognitive ability, so your ability to think, your memory function, your motor function, if you're quite stumbly and like unco, can be really good to train all these things. Anything. If there are areas where substance abuse, where you want to try to abstain from things that are influencing your life in negative ways, potentially, or ways you don't want to be interacting with it, or if there are relationships or certain things, other things going on in your life that might benefit from some discipline in regards to setting boundaries of how you want to interact with these things in the material world, then yeah, I highly recommend that you do that work, that you have that discipline in your life. And it can be really hard if you don't have the support structures and the people and the positive influences to support you. I completely understand that. I've been there myself. But yeah, just keep trying. And progress in any area of life is not a linear scale. You're never going to be completely going up. We're fluctuating beings. One day you'll wake up and you'll be having a bad day, and your progress that day will maybe look like a bit of a downward ride on the roller coaster, but it's required to then come back up. And again, yeah, you need to rest. You cannot be working all the time. And that's something with discipline as well, is that you can actually take discipline to the extreme of being too disciplined and too strict in certain areas, and the extremes generally can be quite detrimental to our health in many different ways. And that a lot of it is about finding a fine balance, again, which is never perfectly in balance because we're always fluctuating, but it's about finding a balance of discipline and pleasure, if that's the word you want to use for it. Discipline and I'm struggling to find a word for it, pleasure, if you will. But yeah, You can go to the extreme of abstaining from everything and never wanting to use things in your life again and getting rid of everything you own and all your relationships and this and that, but it's a pretty lonely world, and it's a pretty boring life. Not necessarily boring, I don't know if boring is the right word because that's super subjective, but yeah, it's much easier if you just try work on some discipline in areas of your life that you want to improve on, and just make it a part of your life. And once you actually start seeing progress, it actually becomes a really enjoyable thing to do these things. Just like exercise, when you start out, it's really hard on your physical muscles. It is the same with your mind. If you have been spending years not using your mind properly, or even abusing it with substances or different destructive habits or what have you, then you're going to need to do a lot of work to build up your mind and your mental faculties again. But it is totally doable. It is all trainable. If you have any area in your life that you want to improve on, simply look up exercises for it. If you are watching this, then you have access to the internet, and you have the access to basically all the information in the entire world that you want to access, and anything that you want to change or train, you can totally do. And yeah, like so much of it, a really simple way to break it down, so much of it is about neurons talking to neurons, just connections in your brain. And so if you want to use the example of being uncoordinated with your hand-eye coordination, that's something as simple as never actually having done it in your life, or not enough to actually have the proper brain connections. So your neurons in those areas cannot talk to each other properly. But if you start training them and you start actually making your brain have that connectivity, then that is something that will actually start, those neural pathways will actually start forming. And if you do it enough and in the proper healthy ways, then you will actually change the way that your brain works, and you will actually be able to find these things to do easier. And that's one example of how the mind is a muscle and how it really helps to actually use it. Yeah, I quite like to say that the mind is a muscle, and if you don't use it, you lose it, because it is totally true. I mean, I've been out of high school for, I can't remember, 6 years, and I've not retained a lot of the information that I learned, and I'm sure everyone can relate to that, and that's quite simple, is the fact that I haven't used it, so my brain hasn't really retained it. It's probably somewhere there, probably in the subconscious mind, but yeah, I haven't been training it, so it's just disappeared. And it's the same with any area in life. If you don't keep working on it, then those connections don't stay as fresh and as solidified in the brain. It's nearly always there in muscle memory, because the brain also has that, but yeah, you often need to train it. So yeah, this is me giving you some support and encouragement to have self-discipline in life. Not to the extreme. Don't forget to be gentle on yourself as well at times, and to take time to rest just as hard as you play. But self-discipline is self-love. You'll not live a very healthy life if you let yourself go, absolutely silly with every single thing in your life. You really need structures, boundaries, and discipline in order to lead a healthy life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So, yeah. Abstain from that thing. Do that exercise. Do those mental exercises. Yeah. Go out there, go on that hike. If you walk 10 kilometers for 3 days, every day, it'll get easier, without a doubt. If you're carrying a pack, by the end of that day, that pack will be much more bearable. Same with the mind. So, yeah, self-discipline is self-love. Peace and love to you all. I hope you are having a great Monday. Take care.